Hi again. Today I'll be reviewing a book which covers some of the most outstanding fighting characters who've ever lived, and it's this book, The Deadliest Men by Paul Kirchner. The world's deadliest combatants through the ages. There are women in it. Now, Paul Kirchner illustrated Jeff Cooper's books and is a member of the Gunside family. And there was a chapter in one of Jeff's books called The Deadly Americans. And no doubt this was the inspiration for Paul Kirchner's book. There's a quote in the preface, and it's the John Wayne's character, John Booker, in the Shootist, who says, "I won't be wronged, I won't be insulted, and I won't be laid a hand on. I don't do these things to other people, and I require the same from them." Now, even though that is a fictional character, the people portrayed in this book kind of live by that as their precept. That they basically, in the main part, don't go around starting fights, but they are very quick to finish them. So, numerous characters in there, one of whom is Pappy Boyington, who is one of the several pilots in the book, and he was in the United States Marine Corps, fought in the Pacific, and formed the Black Sheep Squadron. He was called Pappy because he was about 10 years older than most of the other guys at the time. And amongst many of the exploits is, on one mission, I think it was the third mission of the squadron, they went up and Boyington shot down 5 enemy Zero fighters in one engagement. He became an ace in one engagement. So that's the reason he's in the book, and the rest of his career is described in detail as well. Another character is a baseball player, Ty Cobb, the first man to win entry into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and he would fight anyone. He was very aggressive, and he would start fights, and he liked street fighting. And on one occasion in the book, he had insulted Philadelphia and their fans, and he was playing in that town, and a crowd of 300 surrounded his hotel, demanding blood, and he came down and fronted them, and he told them that he'd kill anyone who laid a hand on him, and he went for a walk. The crowd parted and let him through. So he was a very prickly, very aggressive character. There's numerous other people in the book. There's Frank Hamer and Jelly Bryce. I won't really talk about them because I will be reviewing books specifically about them at some stage, which I've read. Their biographies are available, and they're fascinating and well worth a review. Another part of the book, and one I got a lot of value from, I decided, I've done quite a bit of presentations on the Udder loop over the years, since I was first introduced to it by Marcus. And a couple of years ago, I decided to put a slightly different spin on it. And because John Boyd was a fighter pilot, I thought I'd examine the roots of Udder in the fighter pilot world. So I looked for examples and lessons and how those guys performed, and to relate it to our modern use of Udder. And I did a PowerPoint presentation on it. And one of the things I used was from this book, from the Deadliest Men book. And it was a statistic that the top American fighter ace in the European theatre of operations during World War II had a score of 31. The top Brit, who was Johnny Johnson, had 38. The top Russian was 62. The Germans had a guy who scored 309 victories, and he wasn't their highest. The highest was Eric Hartmann with 352. And the lessons we looked at was the disparity of numbers there was due to skill and tremendous situational awareness. Jeff Cooper, when he was talking about Eric Hartmann, Hartmann was, they were all wondering about when the Mustang was introduced. The Luftwaffe pilots were very, very concerned about its performance, and so they asked Hartmann about it, and he said, you know, it's supposed to have this fantastic acceleration. What do you think? And he said, well, none of the ones I shot down today were on full throttle, so I can't tell you what the performance was like, because they didn't even know he was in the same sky as them. Situational awareness, or lack of situational awareness. And Hartmann had his kind of version of Udder was see, decide, attack, reverse. See, decide, attack, reverse. And another interesting thing, he was captured by the Russians at the end of the war, and even the Russians were in awe of him because they knew who he was. And they said, oh, you know, you're the greatest. And he went, no, no, no. He said, what you've got to understand, he said, I fought against Russians. He said, it doesn't really count as much as my colleagues who fought against the Americans and the Brits, which understandably annoyed the Soviets. Okay, so another chapter is Audie Murphy, and I hope that the present generations recognise who Audie Murphy was. He was the most decorated soldier in the American military. He was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor plus many other decorations, and he fought in Europe, Italy, and he wrote his own autobiography to hell and back, and it was made into a movie. And he played himself in the movie. It's on TV quite frequently, and I quite often see it. And it really it's, you know, they say true strange in fiction. It's certainly more awesome than fiction, because he was just an outstanding fighter, fighting man, and then he had a career in Hollywood, and I guess most people, if they know him at all, know him as an actor, but he was the genuine article. As I mentioned, we have some women in the book, one of whom, Nancy Wake, originally from Australia, and she was living in occupied France, and decided to get involved in helping Allied airmen escape. She's running an escape line. Things got too hot for her. She joined the escape line herself, came over to London, and was signed up by SOE, and she was put through the training pipeline. And it's very interesting in the book that she wasn't very, very good in the training, and one of the reasons was she didn't really find it realistic. For example, they were doing an obstacle course, and she couldn't climb this wall, and the instructor said, what if you were on the run in France and you were confronted with a wall like this? And she said, I've never seen a wall like that in France, and I talked my way out of it. She was okay at the shooting and the unarmed combat, but some of the aspects she found difficult. Anyway, they parachuted her back into France, and she led quite a large resistance group. And on a sabotage task, she actually killed a German with unarmed combat. with a neck break. So really fearsome fighting woman, and you know, one of many in SOE, and I'm glad the stories are being told. There's lots and lots of other people in the book. Winston Churchill's in there, some of the people I've mentioned, and Miyamoto Musashi, Turkey Cock Jack Johnson, the Western gunfighter, Lance Thomas, the guy who owned the jewellery shop, who killed many armed robbers. Terrific stories, lots of lessons from them, of the background to the guys, the thought processes, and what they went through in the fights. Really good book, and it deserves wide readership.